Ukraine's long-range drones are now rewriting the war's economics, punching deep into Russia's oil heartland. These attacks have been igniting fires from Volgograd to Novorossiysk and testing how long Moscow's spare capacity can mask the strain. A shadow war over energy is reaching its breaking point. Ukraine's deep strike campaign against Russia's oil refining sector has become one of the defining economic fronts of the 2025 war, combining long-range drones, domestically produced missiles, and Western targeting support. According to a Reuters report on November 14th, Russia's oil processing has fallen just 3% this year, despite Ukraine's biggest drone attacks to date, as refineries relied on spare capacity to offset damage. Reuters' report, based on 3 Russian industry sources cited on November 14th, who said that the attacks and planned maintenance took 20% of Russia's refinery capacity offline between August and October, yet total refining volumes dropped only 6% to around 5.1 million barrels per day. From January to October, Russian oil processing fell to around 220 million metric tons, down 3% from last year. The report added that Russia has stopped publishing refinery data, and the sources spoke anonymously due to sensitivity. The source speaking with Reuters added that Russia leveraged underused refining units. They added that refineries had been running well below full capacity before the attacks and therefore restarted spare units to offset disruptions. Russia's total refining capacity is roughly 6.6 million BPD, but rarely fully utilized. Ukraine frames its strategy plainly. Kyiv says its drone offensive aims to disrupt fuel supplies to Russian troops in Ukraine and deprive Moscow of oil revenues. The International Energy Agency told Reuters that
Russia's crude and oil products revenue in August fell to one of the lowest levels seen since the start of the war in 2022.
In a recorded statement cited by Reuters, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said,
"The long-range attacks may have cut gasoline supplies in Russia by up to a fifth."
The Kremlin, however, says that the fuel market is stable, and Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Moscow will never bow to pressure from abroad. Ukraine's attacks have expanded dramatically since the summer. According to the UK-based Open Source Centre, cited by Reuters on November 13th,
Ukraine launched at least 58 attacks on key Russian energy sites from August through October, with drones striking as far as 2,000 kilometers into Russian territory.
Reuters confirmed that in early 2025, Ukraine hit the Ryazan, Volgograd, Saratov, Tuapse, Ufa, and Astrakhan refineries. Since August, Reuters has reported new strikes damaging sites in Novokubishevsk, Kirishi, and Salavat. The fall 2025 wave intensified this pattern. Based on Ukraine-linked data and independent monitoring provided in your material, recent confirmed attacks include Saratov Oil Refinery. Reuters-linked data said Ukrainian drones struck the facility overnight on November 14th, the fourth attack of fall 2025. Novorossiysk, Sheskari's terminal. A November 14th drone strike caused a major fire at Russia's key export terminal. Dagnotech Refinery, Makhachkala. Late October strikes hit the AVT primary processing unit, triggering large fires. Feodosia Oil Terminal. Long-range drones hit at least 5 tanks on October 13th. Kstovo Refinery, Nizhny Novgorod. Ukrainian drones are believed to have conducted a recent strike, according to independent monitoring figures. Tyumen Refinery, Siberia. Early November attacks extended Ukraine's operational reach. Gazprom Neftekhim Salavat, Bashkortostan. September strikes damaged distillation units. Orsk Refinery, identified as a deep strike attack resulting in prolonged fires. According to the data available, over 111 strikes or attempted strikes on Russian oil depots and refineries have been recorded in 2025 alone, surpassing 2024's totals. Ukrainian and independent trackers report that at least 17 to 19 major Russian oil refineries have been hit since August. Western sanctions complicate Russia's repairs. Reuters noted that obtaining replacement parts is harder because Western companies helped upgrade the majority of its refineries over the past 30 years. Russian companies told Reuters they have resorted to domestic production and imports from China. An analytical commentary from Chatham House, written by John Loff, Associate Fellow in the Russia and Eurasia Programme, outlines how Ukraine's drone campaign has evolved into a deliberate effort to impose economic pressure on Moscow.
Ukraine's campaign leverages domestically produced, increasingly long-range drones, aiming to inflict economic pressure on Russia by depriving it of vital oil revenues. The repeated strikes on refineries in Volgograd and Feodosia show a persistent Ukrainian intent. Ukrainian planners describe these attacks as long-range sanctions designed to force Russia to reconsider its war calculus.
At the same time, Russia continues its own escalation. The same analysis reports that
Moscow has dramatically increased production of Shahed-type drones, doubling the size of its warhead and increasing its range and speed, launching over 5,400 such drones against Ukraine in June 2025, up from 330 a year earlier.
Russia has shifted to hitting generation assets directly, destroying up to 9 gigawatts of coal and hydropower capacity later in 2024 and around 60% of Ukraine's gas production facilities in early October 2025. Yet despite this pressure, Ukrainian deep strike capability has imposed real costs inside Russia. John Loff said,
Russian petrol prices had risen over 10%, and there were reports of petrol shortages in Crimea and some regions. Moscow has been forced to use subsidies to stabilize prices, raising political costs for the Kremlin.
Still, the analyst warns that Ukrainian strikes are not a silver bullet. Russia retains the ability to export crude even when refining capacity suffers and has begun installing anti-drone cages at key refineries. Spare capacity also cushions shocks, though experts question how long this buffer can last. Diplomatic efforts have so far been fragile. The analysis cites a 30-day moratorium on energy strikes brokered by the Trump administration in March that
quickly collapsed because Russia then held the advantage. But the same commentary argues that Ukraine's new long-range capability could make a new energy ceasefire more likely to hold, allowing repairs before winter.
the stakes remain high. The analysis quotes a warning from Vladimir Putin to Donald Trump that
Putin would destroy Ukraine if Kyiv did not accept his terms for ending the war. Simultaneously, Russia continues to strike cities like Dnipro, Kharkiv, Sumy, and Zaporizhia to force more displacements. With delays in new Patriot air defense systems, Ukraine views its ongoing refinery strikes as its best chance to pressure Moscow into reconsidering its energy war.
the expanding attacks on Russian refining infrastructure may be the best hope to make the Kremlin think twice. The war's economic front is now inseparable from its military trajectory, and Ukraine's drones remain central to that evolving battlefield.